G'day guys. I was actually going to try and incorporate this onto the last video I did for the Brown and Hallis comparison between the drafts, but I'm still trying to work out how to actually attach a Excel file to a YouTube video. I'm sure there's a way to do it, and at some point in my life I will actually work it out. Right now I have no clue. So I'll go over this, and anyone that might actually want it, just hit me up on one of the messengers or send me an email. I'll happily send the file out at this point. Put a lot of work into compiling all this, and it's not going to be useful to anyone right now. But because of the amount of work that I put into it, I wanted to use it more for my own my own data, just for the drafts this year. Given how many drafts I was doing, the fall for this for the Rip and Time League, and got our own Primetime 2.0, not a redraft, but redrafting off the keepers anyway. With that coming up, I at least wanted to give myself a little bit of an advantage by having this information. I'll get myself off camera because, in all honesty, I do not need to be on here. There we go. All right. So, what I've actually done is put a spreadsheet together. You'll see possibly on the screen, I'm hoping this is big enough to be somewhat legible. I've blown it up as far as I can on this, and I have done it across each defensive position. Basically, this breaks down the average points per snap on each position. It breaks down where they played or where they lined up on that particular, like for each down, whether pass rush, run defense, coverage, what was going on. So you'll see here, so DeForest Buckner, that was the amount of points that he scored for the season. That was how many snaps he had for the season. That was his average points per game, and this is what he averages out points per snap. That's where this is basically where their slots, where their snaps are taken from. So obviously, being a natural defensive tackle, generally a 3-tech, he will have most of his snaps on the defensive line, as will most of these guys. Remarkably, Calais Campbell actually had 5 snaps in the slot, which is just remarkable to me. He's 6'8", 37 years old, and that's wild placement. Most of these guys were fairly straightforward. Most of the defensive tackle snaps were on the D line. But yeah, it's the points per snap thing obviously can skew for guys that haven't had a hell of a lot of snaps. So obviously they can be a little bit higher. But it also shows that potentially some guys, if they actually finally do get a few snaps, they're guys that could show, well, there might be more point potential there if they were to get more snaps. They might not. I'm sure there's plenty of guys over the years that haven't had that have had similar sort of stats where they've had large points per snap, and then all of a sudden they get another 100, 200 snaps on the season and basically don't score any more points. So, but it's just another tool that can be used basically. This one here is the defensive ends. or edges, whatever you want to call them these days. Same deal here. I'll blow it up a bit. Don't know how visible this is going to be on the video, but you can see the snaps start to spread out a little bit more for this. But once again, D-line box, free safety slot, corner, and then you got A gap, B gap, over the tackle, lined up wide, and then run defense, pass rush and coverage. So, I'm probably a little bit. I was a little bit surprised how many snaps Josh Allen took in pass coverage. To be honest, he and Hayden Hutchinson. I think it was Hutchinson. No, Harold Landry. Sorry, Harold Landry. 89 snaps in the coverage. Was pretty shocked by that. They're not really guys I would pick to be in pass coverage very often. You can see here, I've mentioned before how many snaps Max Crosby gets. 1,081 snaps. He outsnaps everyone significantly. Danielle Hunter actually took a lot of snaps last year for a guy that's had a number of injuries over the years. But like I think I mentioned previously that Crosby, his points per snap were like in the elite range. I'd pretty much consider off these numbers anything over 0.45 to be probably in that elite category. But it's not huge. I mean, and nor is it going to be. If he gets that many snaps, there's got to be snaps that you're just not going to get. You've got no chance of racking up stats on. So, still an amazing amount of snaps. I don't think. Oh no, yeah, there is DBs that actually outsnap him, but yeah, I actually had to go through where I got these stats from and peel out all the playoff snaps and everything that they'd done. So that took a bit more stuffing around because obviously I had to take the playoff snaps out to get the points per snap proper right, because obviously we've got the points that they've scored up until week 18, and anyone that's taken snaps in the playoffs was only going to diminish their points per snap, so because they obviously didn't get any points fantasy wise for it. Anyway, there's not much I can say here. Just guys that sort of stood out that had large points per snaps. Jalen Phillips was one. He had 367 snaps on the year, so he missed chunks of games and missed obviously the second half of the season pretty much with his torn Achilles. Average 0.61 points per snap. I think Matt Judon was another one, but he only played 4 games, so that was pretty hard to get anything out of. But he averaged 0.66 points per snap. So, but yeah, like your Khalil Max, TJ Watt, and Jonathan Grenard were guys that got a fair chunk of snaps and averaged over like that half a point a snap. So that's pretty impressive. Linebacker wise, where are we? A lot of guys with huge snap counts. Actually, something I did forget to mention. Where I've taken out the snaps from the playoffs, I didn't take them out of where they were in alignment and so forth. These alignment figures are what they had across the whole season. That would have been just an enormous amount of work that would have taken me probably months to actually get right. So, yeah, sorry. I don't have the time for that. I'm surprised I actually managed to get the time to put this together. Linebacker wise, one guy that's pretty impressive, the amount of points that he gets. on limited snaps is Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoa. 0.45 per snap at linebacker is really, really, really good. Pretty much anything at linebacker over 0.4 is exceptional. And Landon Roberts actually scored really well for the amount of snaps he was on the field for. By the same token, if depending on where Cole Holcomb's at injury-wise, they've just brought in Patrick Queen. They drafted, can't think of his name. Wilson, the linebacker. So I'm not sure where Roberts actually lies, what sort of play time he's going to get this year. But he was very productive in, I don't know, how many snaps was it? 500 odd snaps. So had a very high average. Terrell Bernard actually scored pretty well per snap too. Had nearly 1,000 snaps at 0.4 point. Foya Luakon always scores really well. So, cornerback wise, all right. Yeah, you get a few around that 0.4 of a point or slightly over per snap. But yeah, I mean, cornerbacks are cornerbacks. They can be quite productive as rookies. Can be. Depends on whether they can tackle or not. That's pretty much what it comes down to for corners. Either tackles or a lot of interceptions, passes, defense can get them big points in this system. Deron Bland averaged, just over, it was nearly 0.42, nearly and a half. But, I mean, he had 5 defensive touchdowns or something last year. That's not repeatable. So, you shave that, you take away those 5 touchdowns, and that's 50 less points, and he drops him down to the top 8 sort of area. So I don't think that's going to show its face again. And safeties, which is probably a somewhat more interesting category anyway. The defensive alignments is something I'm more interested with safeties. It sort of gives you a bit more of an idea on how repeatable what they've done is. Obviously, the more snaps they get in the box, the more likely they are to repeat tackles and so forth. Sort of anything around that 0.45 area is probably considered elite scoring. Antoine Winfield actually surprised me a little bit how much he played deep last season. But it does look like that might change a little bit this season. With Jordan Whitehead coming back to the Bucks, he is typically more of a centre field type safety. So maybe that pushes Winfield up a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. Hard to see him scoring more than what he did last season. But if he's closer to the line of scrimmage, you got to imagine that there's at least a solid chance that he's a chance to repeat or go close to repeating what he did. It was definitely a career year for him. Don't know. He had a lot of snaps, 1,100 snaps on the season. That's a lot of snaps, especially. Yeah, no, that's fine. But 0.47 points a snap. That's huge, especially when you had 750 snaps at free safety. That's huge scoring. Jesse Bates was pretty much the same type of setup, basically. Most of his snaps were at free safety. High points per snap, 0.4 and 0.45. Cam Bynum also had a lot of snaps at free safety. Played a lot at slot as well. Slot guys can be high scorers. What what worries me with Bynum, he had I think it was about an 80 or 85% completion percentage against him on the season. If that hangs around, I just don't know how long he'll hold a position. If you're giving up that amount of completions on the year, he's definitely a candidate to regress, in my opinion. One player whose points per snap is absolutely insane, Ashton Davis from the Jets. He's never been given the chance really as a starter, not full time for a season. 0.82 of a point per snap is absolutely nuts. I don't know. Well, he probably never does get the chance, but if he ever does, he's definitely a chance to be a player that projects to score large points. The other ones, I have no idea how to say this dude's name. I believe it's Ifitu Melifonwu. Something along those lines, anyway. From the Lions. He projects to get a lot more snaps this year. He actually averaged over 0.5 of a point per snap on last season, but limited snaps. He had under 400 snaps on the year. So, played in a lot of games though. Hence the reason why that's how low his points per game was at 12.19 points. So logged a lot of snaps across a lot of games. But logged small snaps across a lot of games. So the points per game looks ugly, but the points per snap looks really good. So given a larger role in the defense, you'd imagine he's a decent chance to score. I haven't got much else to add to that. Once again, guys, if you want the file, hit me up, and I'll happily send it out at this point. All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.